Um, Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know there's a lot of people who will be watching this later virtually, so super excited to show you guys this wonderful panel. So my name's Adhwita. I'm a computer science plus education learning sciences major at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So super passionate about educational technology and civic engagement. Thank you so much, Julie, for allowing this event to happen. And I would like to highlight the wonderful panelists we have. So we have Kimberly, Ashley, and Jem with us here today. So Ashley's from Microsoft, and then Jem and Kim are from Google. So we are super excited to have wonderful women from the big tech field to join us. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that our panelists go ahead and do just some quick introductions, if that's all right with you guys. So.
I can go first. Hi, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Ashlea Turner. I work with Microsoft and Adhwita. We have a wonderful partnership that's blossoming currently through Blacks at Microsoft and Inspire Curiosity. So we're very excited to support her organization and the great work that she's doing with students all around the world. I'm Ashlea Turner, as I said before, and I'm an account executive at Microsoft, which means that I function as the primary advocate for my customers in K-12. Many of my customers are school districts and departments of education across 5 states: Texas, Iowa, Colorado, Kentucky, and Tennessee.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then, Jem, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeminatu Alabi-Isama, Regional Education Manager. I focus on our EdTech tools in K through 12 school districts in about 7 states. And this is a fairly new partnership with Adhwita and Inspire Curiosity. So I'm really glad to be here. I've worked with Google for Education in different parts of the world. In various capacities, and we'll probably dig into that a bit more, but I'm really excited to be here to share more about what we're doing.
Thank you. And then, Kimberly, last but not least.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Kimberly Lane Clark. I am the Global Educator Advocacy Lead. That's a mouthful. Global Educator Advocacy Lead on the Google for Education team. I work with our educators, which are a 10,000 plus community of educators that are interested in our Google tools, but have certifications, and they're considered Google for Education innovator, Google for Education trainer, and Google for Education coach. And so I get the pleasure of working with those educators. And I was previously an educator for the last 17 years. And so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So yeah, those were some quick introductions. So I'm really excited to hear all the panelists' stories today and have them give the opportunity to just answer any questions on how they entered the tech field. So the first question I have for the panelists is if you could just go ahead and explain like what drew you to Microsoft and Google to begin with. So how did you get where you are today? And we can go in the same order. So Ashley, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Sure. Thank you, Adhwita. So for me, I came to big tech in an interesting way. I was not a salesperson. I was not a tech person before I joined Microsoft in 2022. I was a lobbyist. I was a government relations executive, which if you don't know what that means that you're a person who advocates for your organization at the state, federal, and local levels of government, and you pass laws, you negotiate funding. I was also responsible for political campaigns at the presidential and gubernatorial level. And so coming into big tech was odd for me, but I was drawn to Microsoft's mission of empowering every person on the planet to achieve more. And that meant something to me personally when you think about K-12. K-12 is my heart. 6 of my years in my 17-year career were spent at a school district as a chief officer. And I always yearned to get back into education, into K-12 specifically. And Microsoft had an opening for an account executive based in Houston. I'm based in Houston. I had a number of people who were involved in helping me get to Microsoft, and I thank them to this day, because coming to Microsoft has been the best thing that's ever happened to my career, and coming to tech has been the best thing that's ever happened to my career, and I definitely encourage it for anyone who's interested.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for sharing. No, that's wonderful. And I'll go ahead and let Jem go next.
Yeah, my story's slightly very different. So I was born and raised in the US, but right after college, I went to visit family in Ghana. And someone posted that there was an opening for a Google role, an education role for Africa. And the question was, did anyone just move to Africa recently and interested in these types of roles? And I was just like, well, I'm visiting. Let me submit my CV or my resume. And so that's how it started over about 13 years ago now. And so I started with the Google for Education Ambassador Program. And so I was running that for Sub-Saharan Africa. So we worked in 12 countries. And then we started the Google Educator groups in Africa, most notably Kenya and South Africa. And then I finally got an amazing opportunity to lead our England team for the last 8 years. And so that has come to an end, and a nice, amazing role opened up to move back to the US. So I moved back last year to focus on 7 states to just make sure that we get K through 12, Google Classroom, Workspace, Chromebooks into school districts and supporting the adoption of our tools. So that's how I got into big tech. Took a chance. They took a chance on me right out of university, and I've been with Google ever since in various roles, but still on the education team. So yeah, that's my career.
That's amazing. And then Kimberly, I'll have you go next.
Yes, and mine is totally different, which I love the way you put this panel together, because we have so many different walks of life as to how you got into tech, which all are amazing. And so I was an educator, as I alluded to, for the last 17 years. And so the latter part of that time, I was a director of blended learning, which is similar to, technology, digital learning as well. And so I've always used Google. Even when I was teaching, I always taught seniors, which are students in the United States that are about to graduate from high school. And so this was way back when Google for Education first started. That's how we used to communicate with I had a group of students that we were actually called, they called them the tech girls. And so we had a one-to-one environment where my students actually were learning how to reseat keyboards. They were learning how to actually just take in any of the devices that needed repair. And we really didn't know how to communicate with each other. So we started using Google Docs. We started using Google Classroom. And that's kind of how I fell in love with Google for Education. And like I said, that's been way back when, 10 plus years ago. And so fast forward, when I went to another school district, I was responsible for bringing our students Chromebooks for one-to-one Chromebooks. And we just became a really heavy Google for Education school district. And I really honestly always, when people ask me, how did I get to Google for Education? I really honestly don't know, because I guess they took a chance on me, little old me that was an educator, to become someone at Google for Education that was a teacher. And so, I was able to apply, and luckily, like Jim said, they took a chance on me to get to Google for Education.
That's incredible. No, thank you so much for sharing. And like you mentioned earlier, it is really wonderful to know that all three of you are at Big Tech, but very different stories, as you can tell. Yet ending up at similar places. So which is really inspiring to see. So the next question I have for all of you is specifically, I guess, what advice would you give to younger students who are watching, who are interested in tech, but maybe they don't really know how to get there? You were in their shoes once, so what encouragement or words of wisdom could you give them? And I'll let anyone go ahead and take this.
I can go. I would say just take a chance on yourself. Like you may not, there's two things. Like one, you may not hit all, if you see a role that you really like and you don't hit all the bullet points, apply. And that's what I feel like hinders a lot of us. We feel like we have to hit 100% of the bullet points or we're not worthy of the role. I would say, hey, if you can hit 60, even 70% of the bullet points on the job description, take a chance and apply. You never know who they're looking for. And always remember, there are transferable skills that you may not be aware of, that you can offer the role that you're applying for. Another thing is network. You never know who you're going to meet. Nobody knows what you're interested in unless you tell them. So make sure you go to conferences, make sure you share what you're interested in with various people, relevant conferences. Make sure you're connecting on LinkedIn. Make sure you're posting things that you're doing that might be relevant to the roles that you're opening, that you're interested in. And so those are the things that I would say should get you a little bit closer to your dream roles. Whether it's big tech, startups, don't always think that it has to be big tech. Sometimes people are like, I don't want anything else unless it's big tech. Well, sometimes we need to see experience. Not everyone's going to get in entry level. So don't worry about getting into big tech right away. Sometimes it might hinder you. You'll stay here for too long. So try and work at startups, maybe take some internships, but just out of everything, believe in yourself to do it, and don't remove opportunities from yourself by not even trying. So those are the tips I would give.
No, that's amazing. And I just wanted to shout you out. I mean, when I first met Jem, and same with Ashley too, it's like I was really intimidated, I think, because you just hear the name Google and Microsoft. And like my nonprofit, obviously, it's grown in the past few years, but nowhere near the size of both companies. And just how like incredibly warm you both were and like letting me work with you guys was amazing. So I think that advice really speaks a lot. It's just you never know who's going to help you out, and you never know like what connections will like stay your way. And I'm so blessed to have all three of you guys as wonderful mentors and a great support system. So thank you so much. So that advice definitely speaks a lot to me as well. And Ashley and Kim as well, if you guys would like to go ahead and share.
Yeah, I'll go. So I really think sometimes when I look back at my life, and I was really kind of ashamed of, it's like not ashamed, but like the road that I had traveled was different from some of my my college friends. And so, but now I've realized that it actually was the best road that I've traveled. So I want you to think about like a lot of times when we get rejected from things, when there are a couple of programs. Actually, I remember when I was in a teacher, I applied for one of the Google for Education certifications to be an innovator, and I didn't get in the first time. And so I was so devastated. I cried. And so, but now I know now that it actually was the best because I am where I am now. So don't be afraid of the road and the pathway that you go, because you're going to ultimately end up where you need to end. So if you get a rejection, if you get you don't get a job initially, don't feel that you are a failure, because you're not a failure. Everything happens for a reason. And so it might not seem that way that particular time, but it will come all of a sudden as an aha moment, because I am thankful of what I've done and what pathway that I've gotten myself to at this particular time, because now I'm at Google. Now I'm doing the amazing work that I wanted to do. And I'm thankful for all of the people that I've met along the road that I traveled.
No, that's amazing advice. And I think, yeah, it is something really important to know, especially at a young age, that like failures or setbacks definitely don't necessarily define you. And like you said, everything does happen for a reason. And it connects to what Jem was saying, like any experience is experience. So even if it's not what you necessarily expected it to be, you learn and grow in the way. So that was really insightful. And then Ashley, I'll let you go ahead.
Sure, Adhwita, and thank you for saying what you said about mentorship, because the reason why we connected with you was because you were bold. You walked up to me and said, "Hi, I'm Adhwita, and I have an organization you need to know about." And you impressed me right away within the first 5 seconds. So I want to tell every student on this call today, be bold. Be bold in everything that you pursue, whether it's your educational goals or your professional and personal goals. Be bold. Also be curious, like ask questions. You may have parents who want you to go a certain way career-wise. Ask them why. Why do you want me to be this? I really want to be that. And if that is the case, if you want to be something different from what your parents want you to be, that's okay. You're an adult eventually, so you're going to have to make your own decisions. And when you make those decisions, be curious before you make them. Ask questions. Ask questions of yourself. Ask questions of your network. Ask questions of your boss, your peers, those around you, your customers. Continually be curious. And here at Microsoft, we have a growth mindset. And that means basically that we're constantly challenging ourselves to think better, to do better, to reshape how we're approaching a problem or an issue. And being curious is part of that. It's truly part of that. The other thing I'll say is make a plan. So when you have a plan, you can't really fail, in the sense that, yes, you might stumble a bit, but when you have a plan and okay, in the next 5 months, I want this internship. In the next 10 months, I want to apply to this college. In the next 15 months, I want to have another internship, right? If you have a general plan of where you want to go, you can actually chart a path for yourself and be okay if that plan doesn't work out. Like, be flexible enough to know that plan may need to change, and you may pivot. Your desires may change, your interests may change. And so be open to that as well.
Oh, thank you so much. That was incredible advice. And I think that's something that I've had to learn at such a young age, especially just with like having a nonprofit and like, Jem and Ashley, you specifically know it's like certain times you get delays from other communities or just like working with different systems that the timeline changes, but like having a plan is still so important because it keeps you motivated and at least keeps you on track. So that was wonderful advice. And thank you so much for the kind words that you guys all mentioned earlier. So really appreciate that. And next question I have for you guys. So we're getting a bit more into the diversity. So you three are wonderful women and people of color. And obviously tech is a very male dominated field. And there are a lot of women representation now and people of color, but it wasn't necessarily always like that. And there still is that division sometimes. So how do you guys navigate that, being women leaders and experts in what you do?
So diversity is important here at Microsoft, but diversity is also important for me as an individual. And before I join any organization, I scope out to see what are their diversity and equity and inclusion initiatives. What's their pathway for success? Do they do succession planning for people of color? All of these questions have to be asked before I even apply to a role. And big tech has a lot of room to grow in this area, just in general. There has to be, a come together of how we as big tech move and shape the careers of people of color. That has to continue to be a progress discussion. For me, we are actually evaluated at Microsoft as individuals, as individual contributors, on how much we're contributing to our DE&I work. And that can be being an ally to someone with disabilities. I don't have any disabilities, but I can put that in my connect or my evaluation form that I want to be more of an ally to those who don't look like me. There's diversity everywhere you look, regardless of color. There are diversities that we can't see as well. And so we are cognitively thinking about how we can be better at identifying diversity within Microsoft. And then for my team specifically, there are actually 3 Black women on my team in South Central. Of course, I had nothing to do with it, but my boss hired 3 Black women. He also hired, several other women and people of color to join his team, people who are diverse, right? And so when you look at South Central and when you look at the West region specifically, we have the most diverse team in the entire MCAPS organization, which means that the entire sales organization of Microsoft, my team, my region is the most diverse in the entire company. So it can happen. It just requires individual contributors investing in that diversity journey, however it looks, and it requires managers to pull up.
That's incredible. And your efforts definitely are paying off. And it's wonderful knowing that your team is the highest in the entirety of Microsoft. So that is really great to hear. Thank you. And Jem and Kimberly, if you want to go ahead.
I can go next. I want to say plus 1,000 to what Ashley said about big tech needing more room to grow. Like we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to DEI, but not for lack of effort. Apart from the individual groups we have at Google, we have employee resource groups, and there's a sense of belonging. So as a woman, you have Women at Google. As a Black woman, I have Black Googlers Network. And then as an African, I have Africans at Google, right? And so there are different ways that people can participate in the various ERGs or employee resource groups. And that's an interesting way or a nice way to contribute to the DEI efforts within the company. So within Google, we have something called 20% time. And that's where you're allowed to work on any projects you're passionate about using 20% of your time outside of your core role. And that's a great way for, employees or Googlers to showcase their DEI work outside of the community and maybe different teams within Google. I personally try and do my 20% time with connecting back to Africa. So projects with the Africa team, doing more work on projects back in the UK. So really continuing my passion for DEI there while I'm physically in the US doing projects here on my core role. Another thing I want to bring out is the diversity with suppliers. So not only the work you do within the company, but the suppliers that you use to support the work outside of the company. Who represents Google at different conferences, different events, different projects, making sure you have a full range of suppliers to make sure you're contributing to the DEI efforts of the community and the company as well. But the final thing I really want to showcase is DEI when it comes to a program called Googlers Give. And it's a program where Googlers can pick nonprofits or even suggest nonprofits that we can donate our time to and also give financial resources to. And Google matches that. And so making sure we have enough diverse nonprofits within that program is also key for me as an individual, but key for what Google wants as an organization. So making sure that if we volunteer our time, that organization also gets a financial gain from Google because a Googler has spent time there. So that's something that I really am passionate about, but I'm also grateful that Google's creating different ways for us to promote DEI, whether it's individually, company-wide, but there's so many different resources and tools that we can use to help support these initiatives. So yeah.
No, that's incredible. And I love how you mentioned that it's not just, like you said, internally within Google, but it's also who you guys work with and how you choose those active partnerships. So that's really inspiring to see. And Kimberly as well.
Yeah, I'll just add +1 to everything Jem said. Jem's my teammate, if you all didn't realize that. So +1 to everything. The only thing I have to add is just being intentional. I lead a global educator community, which are from all of the regions: EMEA, APAC, LATAM, and North America. And so we just are intentional, being intentional. I'm intentional on making sure that we honor our cultures, making sure that we honor everyone in terms of their languages, in terms of the diversity of the makeup. Because when you think about diversity, It's not just about race, it's about other things as well. And so just being intentional, that's the word of the day when we're thinking about diversity, is being intentional, making sure that you're intentional in what you're doing to make sure that everyone, all feel belong.
No, that's amazing advice. And I love the word that you use, specifically intentional, because I think that shows that, yeah, you want to do everything with a lot of purpose. And it's super important. I feel like even just being like a woman myself in who's interested in growing in tech, to like have that sense to not only make a difference like internally and in my mission, but also help others to do the same, just like you have been doing for me. So great advice. Thank you again. So now I wanted to go a bit more into career related things. So I know we have a lot of younger students, some high school and college students here as well with us today. And I wanted you guys to sort of share some mentorship that you've received within your company and how that's shaped you to grow within your career.
I'll start actually, because I had as I stated earlier, I had a different path in terms of being an educator previously. And when I graduated undergrad, that was the only thing that I've ever done. So that's the only roles that I've had were in education. I was able to, become an educator, a teacher per se. And then I went to a central office, which is more of where you're operating all of the actual schools as a whole. And so I had previous roles there as well, a tech coordinator, blended learning specialist, and then ultimately a director of blended learning. But saying that, I had never had a job in corporate America. So that was something that was really different for me. And so some of the programs that I was able to enroll in really, 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 really it really made me go in a different in a different light. The mindset shifted as to how I need to think as an individual contributor. It really allowed me to focus on myself as in the career, and these are all the things that Google afforded me the opportunity to do. So for instance, we had a mentorship for the women at Google, which is the ERG that Jim alluded to earlier. And so we have different pathways that we can go to actually sign up. There was one program called Power Up. And so this is a cohort of individuals where we were able to learn about leadership. There are a couple of other books that I've been provided to read. There are a couple of the forum, which is a networking group that we were able to actually sign up, register for, and now I'm a mentor on there. So that's just a couple of those. I mean, Jim, to be honest, was one of my mentors at first because she had been at Google for quite some time. And so we were able to just put 15 minutes coffee chats on some of our Googlers that have been at the company for a long time, and you're able to just meet with them. So those are some things that, and they're playing more, but those are the things that just really resonated with me and really helped me with my being to excel at Google.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, it was wonderful to see just you and Jem's like connection from way back when, especially when you entered Google. So that is a really nice story to see. I'll let anyone else go ahead.
I think it's natural. I just go next. Just like, I would say maybe have 3 types of people in your life when it comes to mentorship. A personal mentor, just like your everyday, your well-being, lifestyle mentor, and then also maybe a professional mentor. This can be one and the same. Your personal and professional mentor could be the same person depending on how you progress and build that relationship. But it's definitely something I've, had throughout my career. And sometimes they change, but these buckets are still the same. And then once you do get into your career, finding a sponsor, and a sponsor is somebody who, you know, goes to bat for you even behind closed doors. And that takes time to build that type of relationship, but it's something you definitely want to have once you're building your career within an organization. It's funny, I should have mentioned this in my intro, but or how I got into this role. But this US role, it was actually Kim who posted it in one of our like group chats within the company. It's like, oh, my team's hiring. And I'm like, your team? I looked at the role, I'm like, this is our team. And so Kim was very instrumental in me moving back to the US and, you know, taking on this role and joining the US Google for Education team. And when I say having someone, you know, in your corner advocating for you within an organization is key, and it can take you places that you just couldn't imagine. So always make sure you have these types of people. So your personal mentor, your professional mentor, and a sponsor as you're building. And if you're in high school or university, these things can still exist within the confines of your organization. So in high school, like, is it your guidance counselor? Is it your sports coach? Same thing in university. And then as you're getting into your careers throughout your internships that you're going to do, start building those connections, because you never know who's going to help you find your next role.
That's amazing. And I love how you mentioned that it's important to have different types of mentors throughout your entire life journey, no matter what stage you are at, to gain that different perspective and experience. So that's really nice to hear. And then Ashley.
Sure. I love what Kim and Jim said. So the only thing I'll add to that is having a sounding board or a board of advisors is very critical in these big tech roles, really any role. But definitely in big tech, you need people that you can confide in, who you trust. They may be family members, they may be people you work with, they may be people outside of your company. But having a group of people that you know you can rely on when when you're having a tough day, and they can just help you reset and give you that perspective that keeps you going to the next day. That's critical. And it's really helped me, because as a new seller, there are times when I don't really understand something, either something that the customer needs or our partners need or the company needs. And so I have to have that perspective, that diverse perspective, in order to move forward in some cases. And so you'll want to start small and always keep it pretty small. You don't want to go outside of like 5 people, because then that circle of trust can get broken. But you want to keep your board of advisors very small. And if someone is discouraging you, like Lord Boateng said earlier, if someone is discouraging you, get them out of your village, get them out of your board of advisors, because you have a mission and a vision in life, and you need to connect with people who align with your mission and vision. And the minute they don't, you probably need to rethink that relationship.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think that is really insightful. Like you said, like people might come into your life at a certain point, but that doesn't necessarily mean they should stay as you continue to grow. And I think it's always important to reevaluate, like you said, keeping your circle small and making sure that the people who are in your support system are actually there and they're encouraging you to develop and not hindering any of that growth. So thank you. And I had one follow-up question for all 3 of you guys, and I know some of the attendees also had some questions, but relating to this like mentorship or just people who've come into your life. So has there been a point in your career where you've maybe thought for a second, like, I don't know if this is the path where I want to continue to go? So, and how did you go through that decision, and who did you speak to gain that perspective?
Yeah, so I'd like to tackle this first, if that's okay. So as a person who came into big tech from a political world, I have had many days where I've doubted staying in big tech because I'm uncomfortable almost every day. And I'm learning things every day. Whereas before, I could tell you a bill was going to pass, and I knew it was going to pass, and I was always right. We're usually most of the time right. And now I'm in tech, and everything is so different. You know, our products are changing. We're doing Copilot. We've got all this stuff that we're trying to sell to K-12s, and K-12s have budget restrictions. So I'm constantly pivoting, trying to re-engineer how I move and how I do things. Now, the good thing is I just got Gold Club. So obviously I'm doing something right at Microsoft if I'm getting awards and I'm getting recognized for the work I'm doing. But I think there has to be some degree of being humble, being gritty, like when you have those moments of, can I continue to do this? And then again, using your board of advisors, reaching out to that group to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling a bit demotivated. How can you help me out? Like, I had a really tough day. Can you just listen to me? And that group, I'm telling you right now, that group has allowed me to just pick it up and start the next day and continue to be focused on what my mission is as an account executive. So I'll share that and stop there.
No, that's amazing. And I think your story is quite interesting. Like you said, it's like completely two different worlds. And I remember that's something that you mentioned to me too at the conference when we first met, because I was telling you how I was a bit intimidated at first to approach everyone. And you were like, hey, I've been there. Like, I've made my career switch too. So that is really inspirational to see. And like the fact that you persevere and you were able to tackle both worlds is so amazing. So congratulations again. So it really is a huge inspiration. And Kimberly and Jev, if you would like to talk about any experiences like this as well.
Yeah, I look back, and during the pandemic, I knew it was something that was kind of missing, but I always wanted to be in education. So that's one thing that I made a promise to myself that wherever I moved to, it was going to be continually in education. That's just my passion. I think that's my purpose. And I never wanted to leave there. But during the pandemic, as a director, I realized that there was so much more in the world to conquer in terms of educational technology. And so right now I'm getting my doctorate, and that's one thing that I'm focusing on, as well as the integration of technology and how far we've come, but how far we also have to go as well. So that's one thing that really pushed me to, obviously Google was my first choice, but to push me to see how are these things that integration of technology being made, what is actually and where can I actually get in on the action of these tools that are being made for our millions of students and educators around the world. So there was a pivot. I don't think it was something that I was frustrated with, but it was a pivot, a pivotal moment there where I needed to pivot to a different space to be able to fulfill my passion of bringing technology to millions of educators, because technology has a way of uniting us together. Sometimes when we look at, for instance, food, we know that's a food, and different cultures of food brings us together, but technology does as well, because we're all in different areas of the world right now, and we're talking and we're able to share our experiences. And so if we use it the right way, it can really excel us to a different level of what we're wanting to do. And so our educators have to know how to do this, and our students have to know how to use it. You don't have to use technology every day. But there is a way that we're able to bring this to our students. And so that's why I'm so proud that I'm on the team that is really bringing this to millions of students all over the world.
No, that's amazing. And the work you do truly is such an inspiration, and it makes so much of an impact to so many different students out there. So it's really nice to see that you value it so much, as well as Google itself. So, and then Jem.
Yeah, for me, when there's any situation or a career change and within Google going on, there's a couple of people that I reach out to. I would say like my former manager, who's actually now at my first manager, like very first manager, who's now at DeepMind, and he has always looked out for me when it comes to my career. And it may not be so blatant or very specific. It's like when we have one-to-ones, he'll start asking certain questions so that you can, think about the path that you're going on. And so when I'm thinking of a career move or a change, I go to him for his advice. And also just like, if you have a normal conversations, people who are super senior tend to give you some insights and you're like, ooh, maybe I shouldn't make this move, but they won't explicitly say it. Another person I always go to is a former manager that's no longer at Google, and we're still close to this day. And she really, I bounce a lot of ideas off her as well to just understand like what's happening outside of the organization within the tech world, and see what's going on. And so having people inside the organization and outside the organization is where I bounce my ideas off of. And also I just make sure that no matter what, I'm always like increasing my skills. So we have a program called G2G, or Googler to Googler programs, and it could be on anything you can imagine. And so if you're rethinking of moving teams or trying to upskill yourself, taking part of the Googler to Googler programs is really helpful to help bounce ideas and also get real world experience if you're trying something new. So those are the places that I go to when it comes to my personal decision making around my career within the company. So inside Google, outside Google, and then leveraging the programs that we have.
No, that's amazing. And I really liked how you mentioned how a lot of your mentors, like some of them aren't even in Google anymore, but you've still kept that connection over time. And I think that just shows like a testament of like keeping those connections and people who were there for you, because they can continue to be. And like one thing that I saw amongst all three of you guys is the fact that you mentioned that like your mentors are not just there for you career-wise, but also just like you said, like whenever you've had, hey, I've had a really rough day, like I'm just questioning a lot of choices in general. And I think that's really good to see. And like I can say this, like honestly, with the three of you, is like I don't necessarily just feel comfortable speaking to you about like STEM related things, but I feel like I can come up to you guys and talk about different things that I'm going through and just wanting to gain perspective for. So I think that really shows the value of mentorship that all three of you touched upon. So thank you for all these amazing answers. So I know we have some questions from people in the chat, so I'm just going to go through them. So someone asked, I guess, what current or future issue do you see that you would like to solve either within Google or Microsoft? So maybe something that hasn't been really accomplished fully yet, but that's a personal goal of yours. And this can be pretty tech or financial focused, but doesn't have to be. So anyone can go ahead and take.
I'll start because, like I said, I'm working on my doctorate degree, and I don't think it's an issue per se, but when we think about integration of technology, like I stated, it has so much potential. And what I want to solve or understand is how we're able to bring it thoughtfully, and it's beneficial to our students in a way where they're not getting so much screen time, but it's being beneficial as to how they learn, and also adults as well. When we think about andragogy of the way that adults learn, and then when we think about pedagogy or pedagogy, however you want to say it, for our students, there are two different pathways of learning, but we're all trying to accomplish something. So when I think about like an issue or where I like to focus is how are we able to bring educational technology and make it meaningful, make it where we know all our students and adults learn differently. We all do. We're humans. And so how are we able to leverage the technology? When we think about AI, how are we able to leverage that to differentiate for each one of our personal learning skills and how we learn? So that's really intriguing to me, and to research how are we able to leverage that and make sure that we're using it for our benefit. I think that's one thing that we really haven't just cracked. There are amazing tools as what we have as well, like Google for Education. And so, but we want to, in my personal, I want to make sure that we are individualizing the tools and making sure that it is being beneficial to each one of us. So that's a thing that I'm really intrigued about in terms of research.
No, that's amazing. And I love, like you said, how that connects with your education journey as well. So that's really nice to see how that's something that you want to continue within your mission at Google. And then Jem or Ashley.
I can go. I think for me, just different ways to support the educator. No offense, students, but the students will always, they'll come and go, right? But the one constant thing is the educator or the professor. And so where we're going to really make a change is supporting that educator, making their role or their jobs more effective, helping them be more effective. And then also, how do we level the playing field globally? How do we leverage our technology to make sure that teachers across the board have the same type of access and the same type of support when using technology? I would love to see exchange programs with educators, different countries, providing resources to each other, sharing templates. And I'm sure these things already exist within, I know we have that in the US, the UK as well, but I would love to see that in other parts of the world, just exchanging ideas and programs. And then lastly, it's just roundtables and conversations with Ministry of Education, right? I'm sure there's definitely an annual meeting somewhere in the world where all the ministers come together. But more than just conversation, what are the tangible things that they can bring back to their countries? And that type of idea flow and exchange is something I would love to see more of, and and this should be televised, right? Like this shouldn't be a closed door conversation. I know big tech in various ways have policy teams that talk to the ministries of education, but I want to see more than just talk. I want it to be televised. I want students to be able to ask questions of their ministers. I want educators to be able to ask questions to their ministers, and let the I would say their ideas come to fruition based on what people are looking for. So that's something I'd hope to see in the future.
No, that is amazing. And I really like that idea as someone who's passionate about like education myself, like the distribution of just like curriculum and resources globally, and having like a set process to do so would be really inspirational. And Ashley, go ahead.
Sure. So to wrap everything up here, we have free learning accelerators embedded in Teams. And many schools just don't understand the breadth and depth of those learning accelerators. You were able to see some of them in action at ISTE, Adhwita. But these learning accelerators are, related to reading progress, reading coach, speaker coach. There's a variety of them, even math progress. And so what we're trying to do is close achievement gaps with these free tools embedded into Teams that come with a school or organization's licensing agreement. And there's just not a lot of excitement about them because there's not a lot of awareness about them. And so I'd like to see our company kind of triple down in how we market and promote our free AI tools, because of course we have the paid offerings, those are awesome, but many of our K-12s are financially strapped. And so what can we do to maximize performance, classroom performance, student performance with what is free?
Oh, that's amazing. And yeah, I was able to get the opportunity to see some of that work at ISTE, which was really inspirational. But I love how you continue pushing forward to that and like wanting that change to happen, because employees like you is what makes Microsoft the way they are. So that's really nice to see. And I guess for all three of you guys, I know we are wrapping up on time. I know a lot of the students have different questions, but I think a common theme that was curious was like just sort of explain maybe your day-to-day roles. So the flexibility that Microsoft gives you and Google gives you. So what does a day in the life sort of look like?
Okay, I can start.
Oh,
you
sorry.
want to
I was going to say meetings. It doesn't end. So for me, I would say every week is different, but typically you're in, you'll start off with your team meetings, your goals for the week or for the quarter. Always, that is at the top of list. And then I'm in meetings with different K through 12 districts about their various needs, whether it's, learning more about our Google tools, Chromebooks, Google Classroom. Right now, I'm working on an amazing project with the state of Louisiana called Read Along. And Read Along is our AI-powered reading program that helps students and helps increase literacy rates. And so I'm really excited about that project. So that's something that's really part of my day-to-day for the next few months. But that's usually what it is. It's meetings. It's sometimes you have space for deep work, but I feel like half the time I'm on a call with someone or something. But yeah, that's my day-to-day.
No, Jem, you're so busy. So I appreciate all the guidance and mentorship and being able to fit me in your schedule. But yeah, meetings is definitely a huge part of your work for sure. And then Kimberly or Ashley, I know you wanted to go as well. Go ahead.
And do you want to go?
No, you can go. You can go. It's totally cool.
Okay, so a day in the life as an account executive at Microsoft in Education looks like V-team calls. So these are our virtual teams at Microsoft, and I lead a virtual team of specialists and support leads. And my team is about 23 people. So we meet every other week on Monday mornings, and we strategize about our customers, how we can help them more, what are their big challenges, what are their big gets. And we do a lot of forecasting and pipeline development to see, okay, how can we generate revenue from these accounts as well? We also have a ton of internal meetings on Mondays. So Mondays are like, a team huddle with my regional group, also with my support leads and my technology leads. And then throughout the week, it's customer calls. So trying to fill the calendar with as many customer calls as possible is really critical as a seller, because if you don't have access to your customers, you don't have access to generating revenue for the company. And so we are trying to boost that as much as possible throughout the week. And then on Fridays, we have what are called learning days here, and it's all across the company, all across Microsoft. Everybody participates in this, and it's an opportunity for employees to get learning or training on things, whether they be new product lines or a new way to sell something or a new way to think about a challenge that we have. And so those are on Fridays all day long. But I'll say that it's exciting working at Microsoft. It's exciting working in this era of AI as well, because there are so many curiosities and things to explore on a Friday learning journey. And so as somebody who's new to all of this, like, it just really helps me be sharper and more aware of what we have to offer and how it can help our customers grow and achieve.
No, that's amazing. And I love how you said on Friday there's learning days. Like as a college student, I feel like our professors constantly say, like, make sure you like upskill and reskill, like, just become more and more efficient. And so seeing Microsoft, as a company that really takes that seriously and wants to implement that across all employees is really inspirational, because especially with like generative AI and just the way the digital world is constantly transforming, like I feel like that constant learning is important. So that is something that was really nice to hear. And Kimberly, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll wrap it up. So my days are a little bit different. It's not more as our like the school district focus, but I meet with educators, and so I also spend a lot of my time working with our cross-functional teams. And so those are just teams that are adjacent, that are working to bring a lot of our tools and technologies to general availability. And so I work a lot with them by providing kind of my feedback as to, from an educator experience, as to what we're seeing in the educational space and things like that. So my day to day is quite different in terms of, I love meeting with our educators, but also seeing how I'm able to really strategize and bring those tools to life as well.
No, that's amazing. And thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, no, your information was amazing. And yeah, since we are short on time, I will take this as a cue to wrap it up. But thank you so much to all of our panelists, Kim, Ashley, and Jem. It really means a lot. And yeah, I'm super grateful to have you guys in my life. And I'm really excited to know that a lot of people learned from you. And to the attendees that asked any other questions, I wrote them down, so I will get back to them and I will send you guys email responses with more information. But thank you so much for joining, all three of you. It really means a lot.
Thank you for doing this,
Thank
Adhwita.
you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.